Now, this next one deserves an honorable mention. It's not a love spell, but was a true act of love. Born in Italy during the Renaissance was Giulia Tofana, who would go on to become one of the most prolific serial killers. But her story is not what you think. From a young age, she took interest in the field of medicine and would frequently visit herb stores to learn all that she could. Giulia was said to be beautiful and intelligent, and when she grew older, she took a liking to cosmetics, eventually starting her own cosmetics business. Now, this was back in the 1600s, and things were not as evolved as they are today. Many women faced disadvantages. They weren't allowed to get an education, weren't allowed to get jobs, and their only way out was marriage, where the husbands took full ownership and care of them. Domestic violence was also very prevalent during these times, but there were no laws or systems set in place to help the victims. As her business grew, many of her customers, who were mostly wives, would open up about their marriages, often complaining about the turmoil they faced from their husbands. Giulia empathized with them, and combining her knowledge in medicine and cosmetics, she came up with the perfect solution: Aqua Tofana. Aqua Tofana was disguised as a regular cosmetics product and was made from a mixture of lead, arsenic, and belladonna. Belladonna is a toxic herb of the nightshade family that has purple or green bell-shaped flowers, glossy blackberries, and root and leaves that yield atropine, a poisonous compound used as a muscle relaxant. The herb also has the nicknames Deadly Nightshade, Naughty Man's Cherries, and the Devil's Cherries, owing to its poisonous nature. Belladonna translates to beautiful lady, and it got its name from a historical practice where Italian women would use the berry juice to enlarge their pupils, giving them a strikingly beautiful appearance. When ingested, belladonna alters the functioning of the nervous system, causing change in saliva, sweat, digestive functions, and pupil size. It was stored in vials, which are small bottles that are used to store medicine, and at the time were also used to store religious ointments. This, in addition to it being similar to other cosmetic products, hid any suspicion of Aqua Tofana being poisonous, with only those who purchased it being aware of its use. Giulia and her daughter began selling the product to the troubled wives, but once in a while men would buy too. It was first made as a makeup powder, then later as a colorless, tasteless liquid that was claimed to be a healing ointment from Saint Nicholas of Bari. Aqua Tofana was a slow killer, with its symptoms being similar to that of a flu, and most of the deaths resulting from it narrowed down to natural causes. The wives easily mixed in a few drops with food and drinks, and the symptoms were subtle, only showing fatality in higher dosages. Now, people at this time were very religious, and the victims took the slow death as an opportunity to repent for their sins, and they wrote wills that fell at the advantage of their wives. Interestingly, post-mortem exams done after Aqua Tofana deaths resulted to nothing, thus contributing to the continued success of the silent killer. Aqua Tofana grew by word of mouth, and Giulia would only sell it to clients who were recommended by her previous customers. She successfully sold the poison for 50 years, with everyone keeping it a secret. The business later on expanded to Rome, and everything was flowing smoothly till the 1650s. A woman bought the poison from Giulia and went home, carrying out the instructions as she was told to. After preparing soup for her husband, she added a few drops in and anxiously called her husband to have his meal. The man settled down at the table, and she sat uneasy across him, watching his every move. He scooped up some soup in his spoon, but right before he could take a slurp, the lady's guilt built up and she screamed for him to stop. Confused, this raised suspicion, and the husband forced her to tell her what was going on. She confessed that she put poison in the soup, and the now angry husband dragged her to the authorities, where the truth was tortured out of her. She was pestered and ended up telling the authorities about Aqua Tofana. Word spread fast, and eventually Giulia heard about the confession. She sought refuge in a church, where she hid out as news on Aqua Tofana continued to spread. After some time, a nasty rumor came up that Giulia had poisoned all of Rome's water, which caused even more panic and outrage. People found out where she was hiding, and the church was forced to hand her over to the authorities. Giulia was taken captive, and she confessed to killing roughly 600 men. In 1659, Julia, along with her daughter, and 3 employees were executed at the square, popular for murders and burnings at the stake. Information on her was destroyed following damnatio memoriae, meaning damnation of memory. This was a form of punishment in ancient Rome where a person's identity is completely removed from any records, as your existence being forgotten was believed to be one of the worst kinds of torture.